Here at Point Loma Nazarene University, students enjoy a rich education coupled with Christian faith. But before the university was here, there was the Point Loma Theosophical Society, a mysterious organization not widely understood by the student population. Here's what they think.
My name is Wesley Ehring. I'm a senior student, and I've heard a ton of stories about the history of campus. I've heard scary stories, like weird stories, like cult stuff.
About the society, whether it be with Cabrillo or the amphitheater, or even the Purple Orb up on the admissions building.
You know, there's the classic stories like, you know, Cabrillo being haunted.
It's weird, old, and feels like it is haunted. The walls feel almost living.
The steps are smaller to, you know, account for Madame Tingley being reincarnated as a turtle or something.
If you're in there for late classes, professors always have a joke that you can hear her laugh or you can hear her walking down the stairs.
It was even flipped onto the other side of the street, I heard.
They moved one of the buildings.
The president's office is super weird.
The purple mineris, or however you say it, orb, and then it has some sort of power.
The Purple Orb, don't know too much about it. I'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Bunch of weird stuff going on.
I think one of the things that I've taken away the most from my time at Point Loma, more than some of my classes, is that the amphitheater here is the first amphitheater ever built in America, which is crazy. And it was built by Madame Tingley for a bunch of different performances and stuff like that.
They brought in 200 Cuban kids out of nowhere to perform inside of the Greek.
You know, that's where my head is with it, is that it was a cult. So I'd love to learn more about it.
And yeah, that's basically all I got. It's a bunch of weird stuff and I just love to learn more about it.
I'm interested in learning more about the Point Loma Theosophical Society. So today, I'm here at Cabrillo Hall to meet with an expert in the subject. All right, thanks Dr. Kennedy for meeting. Yeah, tell me a little bit about what the Theosophical Society was here at Point Loma.
Well, it's a number of things. That's the thing, you know, at the lowest level, it was like camp. You know, people would come over there to what's now the psych building and do crafts, you know. They could have tents up on Camp Karnak, which was up behind where Fermanian is. They had lectures. A lot of people almost come for lectures and just hang out. People lived across the way over on the other side of Catalina and would just come over and hang out and then go back. And there was agricultural stuff going on. It was fun, gardening. But at the highest level, Madame Tingley in this building here are committed to a higher theology, which was very eccentric. And so you didn't have to believe that to be here, but a lot of people did gravitate toward it, and it was supposed to convert people to this sort of higher level thinking called Theosophy. And so it was, you know, it was a friendly place. It was dedicated to brotherhood. It was dedicated to peaceful, everybody loving each other, dedicated to ancient wisdom.
Madame Tingley, she was kind of the leader of this sect of Theosophy. Tell me a little bit more about her.
Yeah, she broke off from Annie Besant and the other Theosophists a little bit, with her own distinctive style. She believed in a progress. This is what's called the progressive era, when everybody's thinking progress. Darwin, you know, everybody's doing progress. So the idea is that, you know, that the cosmos is coming to a new age, and that there had been these cycles, and she could trace these cycles. And a lot of the skylights where angels were delivering messages and stuff like that. Very few people that we can tell sort of adhered to it completely, you know, but it was definitely something that she was a powerful figure and people resonated with her.
Around what was the time period of this?
1897, I think, is when they buy this property and start moving in within a couple of years. And then by 1947, right after World War II. So what is that? 50-year period, you know. See, this is what Theosophy is all about, really, is, you know, skylight with this climb up to it. You know, you have this circular stairway with these tiny steps, you know, which are disconcerting. And they're meant to slow you down, to make you be reverent, to have a feeling as you're approaching what's a spiritual space. And Theosophy is very into light and these skylights on their different buildings, and how the lights are angelic in that they carry messages and it's a wonderful thing. You know, it's very, very sort of intense, artistic spiritual atmosphere.
Yeah.
And these designs here also, Theosophical designs. I'm not sure if these are new or old, but the designs are traced off of Theosophical woodworking that they had done when they were here.
So cool. Would you find this in other Theosophical organizations, like in other parts of the world?
I don't know. That's interesting. There are different artists who are here. And so that they might be distinctive to them, or they could be more something that is, like you say, universal or something. But they certainly are distinctive. You see, they're like alive. They're not geometrical.
Definitely. So cool.
Yeah. Get to this spot right here. You see, this is obviously a building which is supposed to be sort of a ceremonial building. It's got wide hallway to come in, takes you up to the skylight, and then these swooping,
Wow. So tell me about these stairs. Rumor has it that Madame Tingley thought she would turn into a turtle or something like that. And
there are lots of rumors, lots of weird things, and I don't know the roots of any of these sort of things, but you have to take those things sort of. This is a sort of standard thing when you're going to the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. You're doing these little steps too, because they want you to slow down and feel a sort of reverence as you rise up.
Interesting.
And so that's a sort of standard architectural feature. But on the other hand, is reincarnation certainly would have been in her repertoire of beliefs. And so the idea that she returned as a turtle, I've read a lot of, I've never read anything where she said that. But on the other hand, it's not absurd.
Interesting. So what exactly was Cabrillo Hall?
Cabrillo Hall was a international office building. They were an international organization, and so they were lots of letters, lots of people coming and going. And this was a office building, as I understand it, for the most part. Although things change over time, and I don't think anybody lived here for any period of time. Now, the building, you should know, was there.
Oh, no way.
Up until 1995.
I didn't know that.
So it sat right there. They wanted to build this building. And this is where they could have torn it down. If they had been small-minded and just, hey, we're worried about money, you would have torn it down.
Yeah.
But what they did was they picked it up and they turned it around.
Wow.
Because the doorway, they still wanted the doorway to be
facing
on the pepper. So
Wow.
they picked it up and turned it around and set it here.
How did they transport it?
I don't know. I wasn't here. I came the summer. It was done right before I came here.
Wow. That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a wonderful. But then now look at this view they have from there and stuff. This is a perfect spot.
So we're here at the Greek Amphitheater. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Well, the great thing about the Greek is that it represents what is so much of the great thing about Theosophy was this representation of wisdom. Sophia is wisdom.
Yeah.
Theosophy is God's wisdom. And it's a type of emphasis on ancient wisdom, which we historians love. The idea that the ancients were full of wisdom.
Yeah.
And it's a deep Christian principle that God had spread wisdom out all over the world. So Christ comes and gives clarity to all of this stuff. But people are wise. There's a lot of people who aren't Christian and pagan in the ancient world who are wise.
Interesting. Wow. So in photos of the Greek, you always see a bunch of little children everywhere. Who are these kids? Where did they come from?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, this was an educational project. And so it was chartered as a university. And but I'm not sure anybody at university level was ever here. You come at preschool and you go through it. So kids from the neighborhood were in and everything. But they had a core